Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host, and we are on part 2 of the viewer question. For a brief recap, I shall repeat. Now, Terry Arnold said, I appreciate your multidimensional coverage of this topic. I have been studying narcissistic personality disorder for over 3 years now, and I've discovered your channel recently. I've learned a lot from your videos. I look forward to watching all of your video posts. Your real-life story encounters and examples of these creatures has solidified my conclusions about what they truly are and that they are not capable of any type of change for the better. I allowed one of these creatures to get the better of me, and it's not until recently that I've had any hope that it did not get the best of me. There are a number of people that cover this topic that say that one must forgive these creatures in order to move on. Have you covered that topic? I would appreciate your thoughts on forgiveness. I can barely forgive myself for falling prey to this trash, yet in the past I've been able to forgive the creature seemingly more easily. In the first video, it covered one article questioning whether you should be forgiving your narcissistic creature, and originally planned to have 2 articles featured, but the video came out to be way too long, and then the machine ate it all and got rid of half of it, so I thought, you know what, forget it. That's a sign. It should be 2 separate videos. The next article I came across is by Perpetua Neo, who's a clinical psychologist. The article's called, When Forgiveness Isn't a Good Idea, a Psychologist Explains. The link will be included in the description below. Starts off with quotes.
I know I need to forgive him, but I can't.
That's a statement that this person hears from every lady who's been abused, and they're shocked when she says,
maybe you'll forgive him, maybe you won't.
Truth is, it doesn't matter. In a world where the spiritual circles preach about forgiving your perpetrator, or even about turning the other cheek, here is why she believes that forgiveness is not always the way. Number 1, you need to move on. When you prioritize forgiving this creature, you get suckered right back in. Its potential is dangled in front of you, and you suddenly wonder if you're making the right choice. But this creature is incapable of a real transformation. He or she cannot and will not change, so any changes are ephemeral. Even then, you'll see the goodness in it. And every time you place the burden of forgiveness on your own shoulders, you're obligated to wipe the slate clean so as to give it a loving, supportive environment that it tells you is so crucial for its fake healing. Number 2, you get more drained by the second. The fact is, these creatures will try to suck you back in long after the breakup. They'll contact you, trying to get pity or arouse anger, anything to provoke any kind of reaction. They may even tell you they've changed, heard that one before, which may soften you, as evidenced by how many ladies go back to their abusive creatures. Number 3, it's time for you to come first. As she tells her clients, self-love's the greatest narcissist repellent. Narcissists do not actually love themselves. Instead, they have to build a false mask in order to escape from how much they really can't stand themselves. When we are secure with who we are and can love ourselves deeply, narcissist creatures have no way of wriggling into our lives, into our hearts. These creatures love to prey on people with high levels of empathy. While empathy makes us human, the problem is it has a downside, especially when we have more empathy for others than for ourselves. And we keep choosing to forgive this sickening creature by empathizing with its story. We put ourselves last. Without self-love, we will keep getting drawn back into that nasty labyrinth by the creature. Number 4, you need to stop feeling bad for seeking justice. When the author finally disclosed the abuse to her friends and doctor after years, she felt guilty. Was she hurting the creature that way? After all, the creature had warned her repeatedly if she told anybody, he'd get paranoid. And when she finally filed a police case, she battled with herself for months afterwards. Was she going to get him into trouble? It took her some time to come to accept that being a good person doesn't mean exonerating a person's crimes, and that seeking justice may save someone else's life, because domestic violence tends to be downplayed by the police forces around the whole world. Besides, these creatures become more sophisticated over time. By seeking justice and telling her story, she now understands that she's potentially helping other ladies to become more cognizant of the creature's modus operandi. Number 5, your top priority should be forgiving yourself, which ties into one of the responses we read earlier from the page. She remembers her spiritual mentor, Val, telling her, in the end, it all comes back to forgiving yourself. This was a knee-jerk moment that encapsulated everything she'd suspected. I needed to take care of myself first and foremost, and so I worked towards that. Today, she reaches to all of her clients who need to forgive themselves for being hoodwinked by the narcissist and staying in the relationship. We may berate ourselves for not recognizing the signs or listening to our guts. The truth is, your background makes you more attractive to the narcissist because it can parade you around as its trophy. It spent its whole life conning people and has therefore perfected this art. You didn't walk around looking out for people who would con you. You didn't ask to be conned either. So above all, the most important thing you can do is forgive yourself. Number 6, not forgetting doesn't make you a bad person. Do you remember the last time you felt sick after eating something? Chances are you've become adverse to that kind of food. Our bodies pair the food with danger after an illness in order to protect ourselves from being hurt again. It's instinctual. Even if you've forgiven your abuser, it doesn't mean that you should forget. Remembering helps you recognize the red flags that led you into this relationship in the first place. It also helps you celebrate how far you've come. Not forgetting simply makes you a wiser person. In spiritual settings too, sometimes we conflate discernment with being negative. But here's the truth. Discernment is wisdom, and wisdom makes us stronger, better people. Number 7, you need to heal. Healing is, in part, being able to accept what happened, which is easier said than done. To allow yourself to feel the full extent of your grief, sadness, rage, and other emotions we often call negative. This lady held on to the pain for far too long, thinking, why me? Why did I need this baptism of fire? I soon realized that I didn't need that poison in my life any longer. It wasn't my cross to bear, so I resolved to set it down, burn it, and fertilize my metaphorical garden with its ashes. We accept making sense of things, because when our minds have closure, we have a sense of control, knowing that we did our best. We understand why these creatures did what they did, why they happened to ask us. We can also choose to understand that we took care of ourselves to the best that we could, and to commit to becoming the champions that our younger selves never had. Perhaps forgiveness may come to you, and perhaps it won't. The author hopes that you will first and foremost take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. But I think the common consensus from both articles is that forgiveness is mainly reserved for yourself. I covered in the last video the reason why I felt that way, because it's kind of like you're a human being with human being emotions dealing with a predator creature that doesn't have human emotions, so you're trying to put them into your framework of, okay, this person did a terrible thing, I didn't like it. You are thinking about them as if they're a real human being, like you are, so it makes it easy for us to think in such terms of forgiveness. But you have to again realize these are predator creatures whose intention from the beginning was to overtake you, so all the small talk and pretend liking you and love bombing was all phony and geared towards achieving their goal, which could have been any number of things, including just to have a regular source of supply, just to have somebody to parade in front of the parents, somebody to steal from, someone to boost their appearance if they're seen with you. Regardless, I don't really think forgiveness is really applying when it's dealing with that kind of a creature, any more than the bird in the forest from the lion or tiger that tried to eat it. It wouldn't be thinking, should I forgive that lion? No. It should just realize lions are dangerous and avoid them. But in the article that I covered by Perpetua Neo, which I don't know if that's a real name, but it's true. I've said it before in previous videos. If you're talking about forgiving this creature who did this horrible thing to you, the only reason you're probably even considering it is because it has seen that you're not that quick to throw it away, because you seem to think it's more than it really is. They love to pull the trick of disappearing and then bringing up some romantic sweet nothing from years ago, and then if you say you've been dating people, haven't you, they'll make up as, oh no, I've been alone, I've been spending time with family. They'll lie. Please, that's all they can do. And even if you say, is that a lie? The answer will be no, when the answer is really yes. You have to learn to decode their language. Basically, the opposite of what they say is true regarding important situations or important questions. And yes, you do become more drained, because if you're dealing with a cluster B creature, they're not going to change what they are. So it's just a matter of time before they're on to the next one. And there's nothing you can say or do to show them the light, or say, you don't need to do things this way, you can do it that way. Because what they're doing is all they know. And yes, many of us think that we can just be the right influence to turn that around, but you're dealing with a defective product. And I agree with the third one, where you've got to take time for you first. Because for all this time you've been focusing on a fake human being who never liked you, probably hated you, wanted to be you and take over all you've achieved. But it's true about the empathy thing. If you're really concerned about other people, they love that. They love to make it seem like just the slightest bit that they might be hurt by something you've done or said and can't wait to hear you say, "Oh no, I didn't mean that, oh." And that's their way of testing you. As far as seeking justice, you've probably been gaslighted anytime you've raised an objection to something these creatures have done, so it's easy to be isolated and believe that you are just overreacting, that you shouldn't be punishing this person, as it probably says. You're just being too harsh, and you may feel guilt because you actually have the emotions. This is one of those things where you have to realize you're dealing with the monster, so your normal feelings don't work. In fact, you have to switch gears and go into a different mode.
Wow. All I can say is, wow. You've been trying to contact me for a month, and I finally contact you, and I invite you over. You know what that means? And you haven't even responded? Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. I am the narcopath.
Well, I hope you're happy. Look what you've done to me. I'm ruined. I'm shape-shifting way worse than I'm supposed to.
How dare you? It's your fault. How dare you?
And there's another reason I used you, another way. You would have no idea of this. The truth was, I was already seeing someone. I already had a steady boyfriend. We were just fighting when I met you, but of course I couldn't dare tell you this. That would blow my cover, because he didn't have much money. He didn't have a car that he owned. He didn't have a place without his nasty, trashy roommate, so I was banking on you. Another reason I got to use you was to show him just how happy I was without him. That would break his heart, and he deserved it. He was catching on to me anyway, so good riddance to him. But you were fresh meat. You didn't have a clue. You let me in, and I got pretty much all I wanted.